Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of my new podcast, Hiring and Inspiring, hosted by myself, Joe Cutler. This week, I have a special guest on the show, a chap called Keiran Ramirez. Really interesting guy, really interesting background. I'm looking forward to having a chat with Keiran, talking through his career. He's a guy I know who I've helped a little bit professionally. We've been connected for a little while, but I'm hoping to have a chat to him today and learn a lot more about him, learn about some of his experiences, and maybe share some of his wisdom and get to know him even more than I already do. So, an intro into Keiran. Your first role, you became Keiran was an engineer initially, and then transitioned into sales. Worked in a number of different industries: the automotive space, banking, finance, and also the automation space. So he's got a really interesting background. I can't wait to get stuck into it. Firstly, Keiran, welcome to the show, mate. How you doing?
Hey, Joe. Thank you very much for that introduction. It's the first time I've been called special, but thank you. Yeah, I sometimes go by the name Spanish Man with a Plan, but the general will be fine. Yeah, thanks, Joe. So we've worked together a little while in the recruitment. He approached me, or it might have been the other way around. But I've had quite a diverse set of skills over time.
Yeah,
that I've acquired. And most of them have just been circumstantial, just sort of fell into it.
Yeah.
I really have the mindset that I want to experience a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
And I believe in hitting hard at the world until you make progress or fail.
Love it. Yeah.
Just, I mean, like I can keep trying, and you know what? If I drop in that time, then that's it. But you just don't give up, keep going, and you approach things from all angles.
Talk me through your journey. How did you start? How did you get into when you were an engineer at the start of your career? How did that all play out?
Well, I didn't start as an engineer. I became an engineer over time. So back in my day, I sound really old, but in my time, you'd have about 5% of people in school going to uni, and then you'd have the other 95% with follow trades or jobs on the job training sort of things. Nursing at the time, it was still like an on the job training sort of thing. Ambulance driving, maybe even police was probably the only one that had some sort of it overlapped in between the two. And then it became like a degree. So at the time, it was very much that way. And I was by no means an academic. I found that school was very much like just memorization, and it sort of wasn't up my alley at the time. I wanted to get into the workforce and start earning, because all my heroes, all the people I knew, I read a lot. They either dropped out or they just got right into it, or they were just exposed to it. So I didn't really know what to do with it. So I started out in my dad's factory. He works as an engineer himself, works in plastics. He developed a bottle that has a handle molded into the plastic. And you probably think, well, that's a milk bottle, but talking about made out of like a type of PVC that it was fully recyclable. Milk bottles are fully recyclable. And this is something that's been around since the 80s, and it's transitioned to now. And it's going to revolutionize the industry. Like Coles is like, we want all our bottles like this from now on. So it's become something that was just, a novelty.
Yeah.
And a nice to have to like a requirement now. So in the spirit of that, I just followed up on him, and I thought, maybe let's try out that space. And at the time, it was incredibly hard to get licensed as an electrician in an industrial space.
Okay.
Because it was built around tape, which was more of a, lights and PowerPoints and commercial settings and domestic settings. And even though I could wire up like a panel and robots and, do a little bit of programming, they just didn't have the hours, and we tried letters writing to the head of the board and all that. It just didn't work. So since then, it has changed. They've got their own sort of TAFE, their own tertiary place where they get licensed now. And but at the time, it was just no choice. Like the world was just so much harder. It was just so much more of a culture shock where you just had to think on your feet really quick. I remember it just being sink or swim. And what I did was I moved out of home as soon as I could, around 19. And that was on purpose. That was like, even though I was on an apprentice wage, it was like, I've got something to go to work for. I've got something, I need to keep that roof over my head. I need to succeed. And it really worked. And I upskilled into uni and started with some units that I caught on from my time in automation. And I used those letters that they tried to get me licensed with as evidence for some units that were covered, like, general mathematics or, circuit, like learning basic circuits and things. So that saved some time off. Most importantly, saved up a lot of money. And being good with numbers and things, I guess fell into the banking world. So around the time that I could completed or was completing my fourth year, I had a mate that was working at some corp bank, and I got into assessing of equipment, machinery, in working with an underwriter and approaching companies like Woolworths, Coca-Cola, some business to pole, big organisations that have big fleets of vehicles, or if you're talking a factory with equipment. This would be to write policies that are tailored straight, because they don't get the same policies you and I get, right?
Right.
They get provided a policy of their own with with terms and conditions that they find agreeable. And if I was going to turn around and say what the biggest advantage was of working there, is because this is insurance is an industry, but you might have 3 major players, 6 minor ones, and a whole bunch underneath that, all offering the same product and service, very interchangeable. Not really much of a fuss to change over. If you decide to. So as hard as I try to be a man in the background and just do my own thing and go into work and be safe with what I'm doing, but yet challenged, but still not customers facing. Very quickly I realized that you need, in the insurance space, the key is the service that you get. And this was the first time I'm meeting with clients, and in my early 20s, you're talking to people that are very senior, very big players, just all of a sudden sort of thrown into this mix. And the hardest ones were the brokers. Actually, they were the hardest to deal with. Not hard to deal with, but they were the most demanding, shall I say, clients as well, because even easier for them to switch their client to somebody else if they're getting a better deal somewhere else. So that involved a lot of networking and a lot of barbecues that we organised, and training sessions, and just getting more familiar with the customer and making sure that you're providing them excellent service, the white glove treatment. And very quickly I realized that everything sales is very applicable everywhere. There's no more important skill to have than the negotiation skill. And that's really where I found the key point was. And I found that you can't just rely on your employer to train you for everything. You need to skill yourself. So I went to a lot of different conferences. I saw Jordan Peterson when he was here, actually, the first time.
Nice.
I saw the Wolf of Wall Street. I forget what his name was. That was a friend of mine who dragged me to that conference. I also saw Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
I did a 3 or 4 day course with him. Walked on the fire pit. Very, very, very entertaining. Very charismatic guy. Knows what he's talking about. But very much in his own time. Like very much a product of his time.
Yeah.
Like the 90s. Like he really gave off that vibe of, they were very woo woo sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of self-help generation that what do you call it? That spring of self-help content that came around that time.
What did you learn the most, say, from a Jordan Peterson or the Wolf of Wall Street? What do they teach you?
Yeah, so I so much did it so when I'm choosing these people to go and see, controversial figures, obviously. I'm looking at people that they really need to justify their existence. They really have this point that they've got, this truth or whatever the truth is to them. They have to put across, and they're either most of the people going to these events for these controversial characters. They're not going there to get their minds changed necessarily. They're just fanboys of these particular people, and this is solidifying that belief in the head. So it was very interesting to me to see these people justify their points of view, take on the possibility of being wiped off the internet, wiped off the face of the earth, basically, because they believe so strongly in what they're saying. And that justification, they've got that arrogance sometimes, the uncaring of the outcome, in the end. It really than what they were saying, more than what they were doing, really taught me something about sales in respect to maybe cold calling.
Yeah.
So, in my point of view, is cold calling is something that not anybody could do, but when you do it, if most of the time, you're gonna struggle. Most people will.
Yeah.
It's very sink or swim sort of industry. Most people doing it are doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
People don't grow up saying, "Oh, I want to do cold calls for a living." You sort of fall into it. And what I realized was the key to sales is not caring about the outcome.
Right.
In a lot of cases. And I think this exposure to it was just so overwhelming. Like you'd have the CEO of these billion-dollar corporations, and you had to chat with them for a good 5-10 minutes at a party, and that in itself is nerve-wracking. So, I mean, I'm prepared, and I learned how to get to this zen of just not necessarily caring about the outcome. Obviously, I want it to go well.
Yeah.
If you have an idea and you want to say, at the end of this talk, I want to close a deal that we're working on, or I want them to do this or that, or we want to retain this customer. Holding on to those thoughts and beliefs puts you more and more into a box, and it's harder to achieve your goals. So really just seeing these people really just being so comfortable in a room where so many people are against them, so much is against them.
Yeah.
Really taught me that my challenges are so much smaller than these guys.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, regardless of how you feel about them.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting how comfortable in their own skin they can be?
Yeah.
And just talk openly about how they really feel inside. And it's so rare that we could probably name the people that are like that. It's a very small group of people. And I guess I applied to sales that zen, that feeling comfortable in your own skin. They say it's confidence, but I think it's just more like you're not
just in a flow sometimes. You can
move, just really.
It's effortless
when you're in that way. You just so like you and I chatting now. It just flows.
Yeah,
and it can go in any direction.
Just going back to something you said, you mentioned a lot of people either sink or swim in a sales role or environment or career. You've been in sales for a long time now. You've sold, you've proven that you can switch between industries. You've sold different products or services. What is it that is there like a character trait or something that people what allows people to either the people that do swim and make it? What is it that they have that say the people that sink don't have, in your opinion?
It's something that I've thought about a lot. And I think it's something that all hiring managers consider, like, is this guy right for this role? How do you know that? It's like, I can't pick it. And the reason is because, quite frankly, like, the last 10 to 15 years have been a revolution. Our parents grew up in a different world. We're pretty much in an echo of that world. We're trying to replicate what they have. Like, if I take my father, for example, when he was 27, he had a wife, he had his kids already, he had a house, a mortgage, and mum worked part-time. And he was able to acquire all of that, just on a regular salary. And he walked in there as a fitter, as an immigrant fitter. That's how he started, and worked his way up to product engineer.
Was he Spanish?
He was. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
How does that happen? How do you pick that?
Yeah.
Everybody wants someone like that to work with, surely. What I found out was, these people used to work at the same company 30 years, more. And getting back to what it is that makes someone a good employee, good salesman. So what people hiring are looking for, people that are very easy to, half the time they're looking for someone that they can put in a role.
Yeah.
And they teach them what to do. They give them examples and training that they need, the tools, and they go and do it. So you're looking for someone that's really suggestible, very plastic, someone you can just plug and play and start working on. As that person goes on through their career, it's less valued your conformity and just your taking instructions and what to see and what to do. You need to be creative as a manager. How am I going to run this whole campaign? How are we going to get this product in front of XYZ? How are we going to invest in the business to pivot to a growth phase? Because we're either stagnant. We're getting sales hand over this, but we're not making profit. For example, McDonald's was like that. I was just watching. If you've seen the movie The Founder,
I have, yeah.
He had restaurants all over America, but he wasn't profitable. And then there was a guy listening in on the conversation, and he came in and said, "Mate, you're in real estate, not in the burger business.
Yeah.
What you need to do is lease the land on which the burger's cooked, and they can make it a tenant of the contract that they can only lease it through you. And it's X, Y. It made the business what it is. It's a real estate business. So it becomes at a certain point, maybe mid-level, where you need someone that is creative. But creative is there's little value for creativeness at the bottom, where you're just a guy making calls, taking orders, making quotes. You don't want a guy that's like, oh, what if we use this program, and what if we try saying this to the customer? Let's see what they are to react. Or even questioning their boss and say, oh, no, that doesn't work, arguing with them in a way which they hate.
I think what you're getting at is someone who's got a bit of courage, right? Someone who has the willingness to try new things or to question the norm rather than just confirm with how it's always been done or whatever.
Conformists, people that can take orders and carry out those orders. And I think at the higher management level, the staff that climb, the ones that get ahead, are good at just following those orders and making their boss happy, regardless of how they feel personally about it. And when they get to that level, they just don't have the creativity.
Yeah.
So the problem is, Joe, is we need people that are creative in the beginning, yet can take orders,
Yeah.
and flip it midway through. So what's the answer for us? In our parents' day, they could do that. They could just work in the same position for life, and they could very well pay for what they do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And they had little concern over getting ahead and getting to a managerial. It was either something that people like us just don't do that. Keiran is what they told me. Like my grandfather was a coal miner. People like us, we just mine coal. That we're not sitting in the air conditioned office. And if you want that job, go and get a piece of paper and do that as a profession. But that's all I could do. My mother was my grandmother was a seamstress.
Okay.
And that's just what they just accepted that. That's just who they are. So the entrepreneurs back then and the entrepreneurs right now, like the baby boomers, also they had sort of the same thing, that life was so damn good. Like the cards were just so where they needed to be that it was irrelevant. It was that's why they're very little into even questioning authority or anything. Because it's like, life's just so good. Why question it? Just enjoy it. Just go and party, like in wild boars and everything, and all these sacrifices just so we have this lifestyle. So enjoy it. And people that have their own beliefs and like conspiracies. It comes from their generation because they're just like, why question it? It's so good. But it's changed now. It's come to a point where we might go through another 1920s style recession, maybe.
I was going to ask, what's the next evolution of this, generational sort of mindset? What's next?
The entrepreneur is the new.
What's that?
Escape from the matrix. Sort of. It's the way to get ahead now is to take your skills, what you're good at, and turn that into a business, a career. And it takes a lot of creativity to sort of think of it, but at the same time, it doesn't. I've spent a lot of time just meditating in thought as to how I would go about that, how I'd discover what this thing is. That I think it's in everybody. They have this potential. We're all
that sort of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, we all have the potential, but we don't at the same time. They say all men are created equal, but that was written by a guy, Thomas Jefferson. He was a millionaire, wine connoisseur, slave owner. It's very easy for him to say. All men are created equal. America is like Australia. It's a business. New South Wales has an ABN, right? It does. It's a tax farm. It's a hard truth, but it's not necessarily the end of the world. It just means, okay, what do I do with this information? So for me, it came like that. I mean, I was sitting on the couch meditating. So I call that meditating. And my dog came up, and he's a Staffy, American Staffy, and he's a rescue dog, and he's like, you can ask for a better dog. And I can't leave him for more than 4 hours at a time, even at home with the air conditioning in the yard.
Yeah,
I just think they're just so attached to human beings. They're just like they're bred to be a companion in a way, like to be a component of your life.
Okay.
So he just gets lonely, and I can't bear it. And then my partner's in childcare, and her spare time she does babysitting. See, I don't want to do babysitting, but I thought, what about dogs? There's an app where you can take care of dogs. I like taking care of my dog. So what if he had a friend? What if my dog had a friend? Maybe I'll invite him over. And long story short, I made about $77 a day doing it. Very little work, I think, for 77. And in 4 or 5 days, I paid my share of the rent for the week.
Yeah.
When
was this, by the way?
Really
When did you do this?
This was a couple of months ago.
Okay, yeah.
And at the time...
Oh, yeah, I think you told me.
Yeah, at the time, we just thought, well, let's get one more. See how it goes. We have a really big house. And I feel like it's so much potentially, like we're looking at 2 bedrooms, a huge yard. What do you do with it? Like first thought was like ask a friend, because I needed some extra cash at the time. I had some medical things that I wanted to, some medicines and things. But then I thought about, I could get maybe $7 here. There's enough space, surely. It's a matter of moving everything around. There's only 2 of us.
Yeah.
I really am bound to the couch, the bed, the bedroom, the TV room, the study where I work. The rest of the house is where I'm passing. It's a thoroughfare. And the yard, especially, like, what do you do in the yard? I like to do it with boxing in the yard, but, there's so much space there. It's one of those old, like, 1970 big blocks. So we just kept adding dogs. And very quickly, there was a couple of months of rent was already paid, and I kept the rest. I would keep the rest of our wages. We were paying our way, and this lightning bolt hit. I thought, this is a business. This is how it starts. I found something I like. It's making income, but I'm not caring about how much I'm making of it. It's more doing what I like to do anyway, and that's what it's all about, really. Like, it's so hard to discover what that thing is. It's almost impossible because you're thinking about your skills and what you learned at school or what you studied at uni, but or what it is that you like. A lot of people don't.
So I was going to ask you, what does the future hold for you? It sounds like this recent venture, is that it? Like, is that what you're going to pursue? In the next period of time? Has that sort of that entrepreneurial venture has it taken over? Has it taken over for you?
That's what I'm considering. So I'm thinking of getting a bigger block, by acres, dividing it up with like little dog houses on it, and then you just think about it: 77, like if we put 7 here, I can surely get up to 10, 12 over there. And the benefit is, the further out you go, the more land you can get for less money. So, when you're talking 3 weeks, a couple of $1,000. It just adds up. And there's an app that I use. It's called Mad Paws. There's another one called Paw Shape. And the phone's just off the hook. It's like Uber when you get the rating at the end. And if you're good, you go to the top of the priority. You get higher and higher. Your rating gets higher. Yeah. And it just starts coming in. So that is a real possibility that could be that lightning bolt moment that all of us have the potential to experience.
How did you get that moment, that light bulb moment? Did you say you were meditating?
It's awareness. Yeah, it's a lot of meditating to reduce the noise, the distractions.
But like the moment where it just clicked, where like this could be a business, you were.
Yeah, well, funnily enough, you're in it. You're in that moment. You're in that thing before you even know you're in that thing.
Right.
Might be a bit after a while you're there. You might say, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's something here that I'm enjoying this for the first time. For the first time, I'm getting paid for something that I like. Like I've always found enjoyment at work, obviously, but that's why I chose it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the enjoyment is that I'm in control. If I do a bad job, it's my fault, but I take full accountability for that.
Yeah.
And I'm only bound by how much land I have. My overheads are very minimal because the owners supply all the kibble, the dogs, the toys.
Yeah.
They give you instructions. And every night you go to sleep and you're like, that's another couple $100, that's another $1,000,
Yeah.
And then you're like, that was really the aha. Like I'm getting paid for something I like doing for the first time.
It's interesting though, like the money you mentioned sort of came second. You didn't even really think about the money. You were just doing it because you were enjoying it.
Yeah.
You're enjoying it, and then it's suddenly like, rather than I think a lot of people do, they chase the money first. So they'll be the reason they do that job is because it's paying me X, right? So
that's right.
You've sort of it's funny how it works sometimes that you just because you get so wrapped up in doing something, enjoying it, and then oh wow, I've actually earned that much money. Like, and even because I was just so wrapped up in the process of doing it.
I mean, I remember being in a bank job, and it was very in the actual bank. It was very like, like. Business bankers do.
Yeah.
Relationship manager, senior. People in the call center there are like, whoa, and it's like you go outside and tell your relatives, wow, great job, cool job. But inside, I didn't feel like that. I felt very like small. I felt very much like I'm only really listening to what my manager says and then doing it. Very little of what it's like the banking environment is very controlled.
Yeah, right.
It's almost like being in a communist country. Maybe it's just like
you were just a number almost.
There's certain things we say, certain things we do, the way we carry it out, and it's very cookie cutter, and it's very good at crushing your soul very quickly because there's such an emphasis on efficiency, and you're often told like to make it feel like you could be working your butt off. And that is not uncommon in a bank. Yeah, great, you work hard, so does everybody else. Because you're getting that salary, but the bank is a bank at the end of the day, and they want a return on their investment. If they're paying $100,000, they want $100,000 worth of stuff coming their way and more. So they squeeze and squeeze. So they may say that you work as a team as well. There's no individual there. Kind of like in a communist country too. You're not.
Just lost you, mate. Nah, you're gone. There we go. Yep. You still there, mate?
Hey, Joe. Sorry, I didn't incoming call there.
Sorry, just cut.
Sorry, it may happen again. I'm not sure, but I should have set that up earlier. So, what I'm getting at is like, you're not an individual in a bank. You're your product. You're an investment. You're an asset to them. You're a staple. You're there because you perform a function. And we pay this much for you, and that's what we expect to get out of you, or this much return for our investment, essentially. And if you're not performing that, if your team is not performing that, you can just easily be cut. And there are people that have been cut out of the bank very quickly. I won't name this one, but they've come back with a smiling face, with gratitude.
Yeah,
you brought me back in like from exile, from the Kuwait.
Yeah, wow.
And there's no resentment there. It's just like, this is how life is here. You just live with the cult, like just. I thought it was madness. Just living with this knife dangling over your head, and that doesn't get to you. Always feeling gratitude for what you've got. So you want to have another team, is what I'm getting at, and they may need people, and it may be a job that you have nothing to do with. It's not part of your role, but we could train you to do it. So you end up helping that team, and it takes up a big portion of your day because they made a mistake. But you're covering them essentially. You've got a business. You've got things to do here, and they've run a time limit. But that manager is higher up, and they've told your manager that is underneath is the subordinate of that manager. There's a feeling like you can't say no. Don't question the leader. And they call them leaders. They don't call them managers. They call them leaders for a reason. So that's sort of bank culture in a nutshell. It's also very much a fraternity because you all share a common sort of job and role, and it's so much different to the corporate world. So there's a fraternity as well, an understanding of how it is, and it's very much like, can you put up with it? It's like, I guess, what it's like to be in the special forces or something. Like, all this training's hard and stuff, but if you can tough it out and just let it roll off your back like water off a duck, you can make it. And I have a good feeling that a lot of them are. But to me, that's not what work should be. It shouldn't be this thing you need to get through. It needs to be you're trading your time for money, and it needs to be a transaction that not only does it provide a return, but even if it just sustains your life, like it just pays your rent and gives you enough to eat, you're experiencing a freedom that countries like Australia, the UK, America are built on. That anybody can be whatever they want to be, and that's the dream. That's the dream to me,
Yeah.
That's why the entrepreneurial spirit is important to me. So why is sales also a part of me? Because that's it's a measurement of your worth. You're paid accordingly to your output. There's a lot of talk these days around the discrepancies in pay for certain roles, and so to their identity ties back to there. And a lot of people say, well, it should be given to the people with the skills. And there's almost an attack on people that have skill. Don't favor them over other people.
Yeah.
In sales, you're paid according to just what you put out.
Yeah.
There's no discrimination there. It's purely, if you do the job, these are the parameters.
It's all performance, right?
That's right. And that's
it's all results. It's all results.
That's right.
There's no hiding from it, right? There's no hiding. No, there's no hiding. If you make a mistake, if you don't make a certain amount, it's on you. It's a hard truth to swallow for a lot of people. To look at themselves and say, there's a compulsion to make an excuse for yourself, like, because you got that pride, it's because of that damn manager, it's because of that guy that didn't answer his phone, it's because of this guy in procurement, HR, whatever it is. No, mate. In sales, it's what could you do? What could have you done, given that was the circumstances? What could have you done to get around that? If there was a guy in your way or there was something in your way, why didn't you account for that? You could have made it work. Yeah. You've got to find a way. That's what I love about it. You've just got to find a way sometimes.
Yeah.
There isn't one way of doing it.
That's right. And then you take it on the chin, you learn from it, you take accountability, and we try again tomorrow. But this time we're armed with that knowledge. So cold calling, that sink or swim thing, it's about being able to take it on. It's just too much of a hard truth for some people, especially in today's world. And as I was saying, it was the 5% that went to uni and the 95% that went into a trade or whatever. Now it's like 95 that go to uni and 5% that go into a trade. Because everybody wants that prestige, that automatic, like that participation trophy, just some recognition. That's important. I'm a human being, not a number. So what do we have? What do you have now? We've got a lot of people with degrees that aren't relevant. 18th century French poetry and things like that. Anything to go to say, I went there and got a piece of paper. And it's getting bizarre. It's getting very bizarre.
Well, I've got one last question for you, and this kind of wraps things up. It maybe touched upon a few things we've spoken about today, but just a theme for this, for my podcast series, I want to really nail it or sort of dial in a little bit on success, like on what success means to different people. I think you have touched upon a few things here, but if we could just wrap it up, put it in a bow. For you, Keiran Ramirez, what does success mean to you? And you can take that any which way you want, professionally, personally. The floor's yours.
Something I've thought about a little. Success is saying, I made it. Here it is. Baby boomer mentality is that certificate on the wall, that trophy, that affirmation, that's rock solid thing. You made it. And it's always been according to what other people think of you. And often I've heard from people that have worked with me or under me, it's just hear a lot of people say, I don't care what people think. I am what I am. But it is very important. And to me, I think there's everybody has in their own mind what I am, who I am, and I do too. But I think it's about that echo, that feedback from the world. Like I said, sales is a measurement. It's the only industry where you can be measured by what you output, and your salary is a bonus, and it goes up from there, sometimes unlimited. Being a success is being able to sleep at night, and you feel totally happy. Like when you walk away from a deal, they feel 100% sure, and you feel 100% sure that you did the best you could do.
Yeah.
And just being able to sleep at night, just being comfortable in your own skin, when you reach that point, is when you're a success. And success looks like a lot of different things these days. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a trophy or a certificate on the wall. There was a time when there was a class society, and that was important. But like I said, there's 95% of people getting everywhere. They're getting their certificates. They're looking for that. There it is. There's the proof. Or they say, there's the science. There's that makes it real. But the parameters shift all the time. So I think now it comes back to yourself. Is the world, are you projecting an image that the world finds favorable? Are you being kind, fair?
Yeah.
And are you comfortable in your own skin? And at that point,
are those things like you ask yourself, say, when you go to sleep at night, are they the questions you ask yourself? And if it's a yes, that's what makes you happy. That's what makes you feel like you've had a successful day. Is that right? Yeah,
there are people out there. I mean, it's controversial. Maybe Steve Jobs, for example, ruthless character. Bill Gates, maybe as well, ruthless character. Maybe it's the nature of the industry.
Yeah,
being so uncaring about just blatantly taking IP and then putting a license on that certificate. And both of them getting feeding off each other's toxicity. If anyone did that, if you and I did that, be ruthless, we could be a so-and-so called success. We could be like Johnny Brand. We'd have 5 Lamborghinis, wealth, possessions, things that people would say that's a successful guy. But can they sleep at night? Could I sleep at night with that? No. I'm happy where I am. If I've got enough to eat, if I've got shelter, if I like it, I'm successful. And if I'm maintaining myself and getting better every day, that's success. And I celebrate my success when I can, just with family, catching up with Dad, with my partner. We live a very comfortable life. We got out of the city and away from that. My apartment's got this. I've got this type of car. I moved out here, and as a result of that, we got into that dog boarding business.
Yeah.
And just pursuing what we liked. Just so happened to bring in the opportunity. We moved away from the opportunity should be in the city, right? But we moved away from there, which is what not a lot of people are doing. They'd rather pay $700 a week than live out west when they could have a 2-bedroom house, 3-bedroom house easily for that price. We moved away from that so called opportunity. I gave up the finance job.
Yeah.
And found that success. So I think it's just in spite of everything, feeling comfortable in your own skin. It's
love it.
Yeah, do you feel it personally? And it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It's very impactful work. So
that's why I asked the question. But mate, Keiran Ramirez, thank you very much for that answer and indeed coming on the show today and sharing your journey, sharing your wisdom. I got a lot from that chat. I learned a lot about you and how your mind works, and hopefully some other people will too. So Keiran, thanks again, mate. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Joe. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've enjoyed working with you over the years, and it's been very great to have a chat and nut it over some business. So thank you very much.
Great stuff.
Wish you all the best.
Appreciate it. Cheers, mate.
Bye.